sister spent 5 months in India working with women who were rescued out of the sex trade. And when she came back, she told us a lot of stories and a lot of testimonies, but the main thing that stood out to me, and one of the saddest, was that those girls that she worked with, a lot of them came into this lifestyle or were sold into this lifestyle at 10 or 12 years old. And a lot of times their families sold them into it, and a lot of times it was a money factor and they didn't have the money to take care of them, and this was the easiest way out. But therefore, they didn't have but a middle school education if they were lucky. And what do you do with a middle school education? You can't really work at an accounting place or anything that you would need some type of math or education for. I think that most people probably believe that slavery ended in the United States with the 13th Amendment, but that isn't the case. According to Kevin Bales and the CNN Freedom Project that was done in 2014 on DoSomething.org, between 21 and 30 million people are enslaved throughout the world. That's 1 in every 280. While that's still the world scale and people still think there's not things like that happening in the United States, there still are. According to Bales, between 14,500 people and 17,500 people are brought into the United States every year. Until human trafficking is ended in the United States, we cannot truly call ourselves the land of the free. Today, the things I'm going to talk to you about are what types of human trafficking most impact our country today, what areas are targets, and why you should care and want to get involved to put an end to this. The definition of human trafficking that is found in the dictionary is the illegal practice of procuring or trading in human beings for the purpose of prostitution, forced labor, or other forms of exploitation. Each type has its various differences, but the main thing that they have in common is force. They're forced into this. Just like slavery we learned about in history, and slavery we just know from life, it's not willing. They're either born into it, or they're sold into it, or they have no option. Some of those types of slaveries and human trafficking include domestic servitude, where they work for private people in their homes, and then there's sex trafficking, which kind of is explained on its own, but it can be women and men and children. Over 50% is actually children that are forced into the commercial sex industry and held against their will. There's forced labor, where they're forced to work for no pay and they're just here and they have to work in places like sweatshops and different places. And there's also bonded labor, where they're brought here told they have this debt that's normally an inflated debt, not really what they specifically needed. They're told they can be brought here if you work for me for 15 years and pay off your debt. But somehow that 15 years can come and go and your debt is still not paid. According to California Against Slavery in 2015, some of the places that are mainly targeted are California is one of the highest, and Texas, places that are on the border and places that are on the coast. But Georgia is the 7th highest out of 50. And we barely have a border, so it's not always just because of borders and waterways. Also, according to Kevin Bales and the CNN Freedom Project, many of the victims are runaway girls who were sexually abused as children. So even if the only reason that girls were sold into this or ran away and got pulled into it was because of abuse and everything, abuse is everywhere, so trafficking can be anywhere and everywhere. These things are happening right in our own backyards, and we're doing very little to stop it. So lastly, why should you care? Like what my sister told us, according to the National Report on Domestic Minor Sex Trafficking Victims in May 2009, the average teen that enters the sex trade is between 12 and 14 years old. How many people know somebody that age, or have a daughter or a cousin or a sister or a grandchild or a friend that's that age? They're all, everyone can be affected by that. So that alone should make you want to do something. It should emotionally touch you, and it should just commonly just make you want to put an end to this. We must come together, we must spread awareness so that we can truly call our home in the United States of America the land of the free, completely.